But for Christmas market season, that's a really cool place to go check out. It's going to be one of the larger markets in Paris to check out. So, yeah, have some mulled wine, some nougat, some cheese, and La Défense.
And talk business.
And talk some business. The business of food. Hello and welcome to the Worldwide Honeymoon Travel Podcast, the podcast that talks about all things couples travel, including destinations, tips, advice, and more. I'm Kat.
I'm Chris.
And this is episode number 192.
And today we get to talk about the best place in the world.
Yes, we do.
Oh, best city in the world. I'll say that.
Yeah, where's your favorite place in the world?
My favorite? Oh, anywhere with you, dear.
Okay.
My favorite.
Well, aside from that.
My favorite place in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's tough. I think my favorite place I've traveled to is the Amazon.
Yeah, that's still pretty up there for me as well.
That's up there. I haven't quite decided if gorilla trekking topped that yet. Mm-hmm. I'm still kind of sorting that through in my head, but yeah, I would say the Amazon is definitely pretty up there.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
I would say I think I would agree, but also I would say Annecy, France, or Annecy if we're speaking French. France,
which we are.
Which je parle français. Yeah.
No.
I said I speak French.
Oh. Oui.
Tu parles français?
No.
Okay. D'accord. Yeah. Any highlights? We recorded yesterday. We're just recording again today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was making my schedule for the rest of the year, my work schedule, knowing that, I take a Christmas break / I know that we're going to St. Lucia during that time for our birthdays. And I forgot that, hey, in 3 weeks, I'm leaving for the Christmas markets with my parents. So that's why I was trying to get caught up on podcasts. Hence us recording again today.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, do you have any highlights, I guess, in between there?
In the past 24 hours, a highlight. Yeah. I mean, as kind of monotonous as it sounded, I went on a nice run tonight. The weather was nice. Mm-hmm. Legs felt good. Head felt good. I was just able to kind of get in a groove. Mm-hmm. And, it felt really, effortless. Yeah. Which was nice.
Yeah. I would say I'm excited. My friends are coming this weekend.
How is that a highlight?
Well, I'm just
what
excited
has happened
about
in the past 24 hours.
The only thing I can think of that happened in the last 24 hours is that I learned some new vocabulary in French. So I was at a hotel. I was on a hotel website on Google, and Google Translate sometimes automatically kicks in to sort of translate it, even though the website was already translated into English. And it was for a hotel I'm hoping to stay at in the Champagne region next year. And the part where it says no pets, Google translated it into no farts. And I was like, well, that's weird.
Hold on. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you open a bottle of champagne or sparkling wine, there's a correct method to doing so that is taught, right? And you always like to call the little of the gas escaping the bottle, you always like to call that angel farts.
Well, no, because isn't that what it's called? That's a funny term for it.
It is a funny term for it. I don't think that's the official term.
Well, I feel like that's not either.
But when you saw no farts, was there, even for a second, did you think, oh, I can't open the bottle there?
No.
Okay.
I just giggled and saw that it had a picture of a small little dog with the X through it, which meant no pets.
Or a dead dog.
No. I understood what it meant, but I just giggled because I was I think Google messed up the translation, trying to translate it into English when it was already translated into English from French. And so I went being oh my gosh, is pet in English, fart in French. And I Google Translate, it is. I even looked it up. And I was like, okay, well, if that's what that means, does Peter mean to fart, the verb to fart in French? And I looked it up, and it does. So if your name is Peter, in France, that would be a very uncommon name because it translates to the verb to fart or to explode. Neither of which are very complimentary verbs, I suppose. So that was kind of a funny thing I noticed during some of my trip planning stuff today.
Now that is a highlight.
No, not much has happened in the last 24 hours since I recorded.
There you go.
Yeah.
But, I mean, speaking of France, that's what we're going to be speaking of.
Yeah. I went to France yet again during my trip to the to Provence. I started and we flew into Paris. We spent a couple days there. Then we took the train down to Avignon and did our road trip. I've gone to Paris many, many, many times, and I have a whole blog post on France Voyager about the various hidden gems of Paris. And this podcast episode is going to be me talking about the 15 of my favorite hidden gems in Paris, or some of the ones that there's a couple, I think there's like one or two I haven't been to yet that I'm like, oh, that's next on my list to go to, where I really, really, really want to go. But yeah, so my top 15 sort of hidden gems to go check out in Paris. And you've been to some, so you can certainly chime in as well.
I'm good. Are these in order?
Not particularly. I just listed them out.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's not like
you have to go to this one first.
No,
Yeah.
right. But like we're not counting up to like your favorite or something like that.
No.
Okay. Well, hit
Yeah.
me off. What's
You
the
start
first
with number one?
Sure. Number 12.
Okay. Number one is Le Grand Épicerie de Paris, and that is a gigantic spice shop in Paris. It's next to Le Bon Marché or Le Bon Marché, and it's just fantastic. I went there this last time with my sister, and it is, if you guys live in Cincinnati or know that area, kind of like a Jungle Gyms, where it has like all of these spices and different products from around the world. It is just amazing. Like you go in and it is basically just like a huge department store full of food. Like they have a section devoted to like coffee and tea. There's like different sections devoted to different places in the world. There's a huge bakery. There's a huge cheese shop. There's like all kinds of so many things. There's different spices. There's lots of local French products. It is just amazing.
What did you eat when you were there?
So we grabbed dinner our first night in Paris there. And by grabbing dinner, what I mean is that we grabbed a bunch of things there and took it back to our hotel and ate it because we were pretty tired and we went to bed pretty early. But yeah, I mean, they have lots of different food and drinks from all over. And I bought some salt there. That I brought home from the Ile de Ré, I think, or
Very
Ré.
good.
There's lots of spices. I bought I think like a wheat beer or something that was made in France. We bought a bunch of cheeses. We got some bread and then some like candies and stuff, and then brought those all back to the hotel and ate it for dinner, which was great. And nougat.
What was your favorite thing that you bought there that you ate that night?
Oh, gosh. I mean, probably the cheese.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what
I
makes
think I
this
got
a
some
hidden
Camembert.
gem?
I just think that, do Parisians know about it? Yes. But do people that have never been to Paris before, like, is this a place that you think that you would go to right away? Probably not.
Yeah.
You would go to the Eiffel Tower and things like that. So it's a hidden gem for, I think, for foodies, if you're looking for, like, specific French products that you think you might not be able to get in, like, a random grocery store or something. And it's just kind of a fun way to sort of, like, grab different things from around the world and try it. So it's very fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, number 2. You've been here before. This is the Marché des Enfants Rouges in the Le Marais neighborhood, in the Le Marais district, if I can speak. We went here on a food tour. I have been there twice since then to kind of eat and to check it out. Pretty much every time I go to Paris, I go these days because I really enjoy it. It's like a cool little market. It's very historic in the Le Marais neighborhood. They have a lot of food stands, and during the food tour, we tried a bunch of cheese while we were there and some wine, but there is a ton of like places to grab lunch there as well, little restaurant pop-ups in there. There's anything from Shei Teiko, which is like a Japanese restaurant that I went to last time and got like bento boxes with some friends. There's Shei Alan Miam Miam, which is just close by that has like famous sandwiches. There's like a wine shop. There's like all sorts of different fun restaurants in the area. So it's a great place to go if you're looking to grab a good lunch, where the locals go for lunch. So I just like it. It's a very fun local place with lots of really good food.
I love visiting markets.
Mm-hmm.
And when you first said it, I remembered going there and I was like racking my brain for which market this was, right? And trying to picture it. As soon as you said cheese, I had it.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic cheese tasting.
Mm-hmm. And it gets crowded at lunchtime, that area, because of all of the little restaurant stands. Like whatever you're craving, there's a ton of little restaurants all around serving up something good. And it's just kind of this like open air market, covered market with like restaurants in and around it.
Definitely a place to check out.
Yeah. The third one is a Parc des Beaux-Champs. I think it's my favorite park in Paris. This one is just kind of off of the main tourist track, but it's one of the prettiest parks in Paris, I think. It has a gigantic bridge. It has a little pond where there's lots of ducks swimming around, and an island that is just this huge mountain cliff thing with a temple on the top. It's the Temple de la Sibylle at the top, and it's very, very beautiful. It's very scenic. You'll see a lot of runners running around in that park and a lot of locals.
My people.
Yeah, a lot of runners, especially because it's got some hilly parts. They'll run up the bridge or they'll just run circles around the big pond. There's like some caves in there, and it's a really scenic, pretty park, and it's a great spot for a picnic. So you just sit down at a park bench and, have a little picnic lunch there, and it's very, very beautiful, and it's definitely off the tourist beaten path. So it's one of my favorite parks to go to and just hang out.
Nice.
Yeah. Number 4 is Canal Saint-Martin. It's a beautiful canal in the heart of Paris. It's a great local neighborhood too, with lots of great bars and restaurants around it. But even if you just want to check out the canal, it's very pretty. There's lots of little bridges to walk across the canal, and it's just very scenic and fun. And you'll see a lot of people just kind of hanging out around that area. But it's also just a really fun spot for whether you want to go out or get dinner or something like that, or get some lunch. Again, kind of off of the tourist beaten path and a more local spot in Paris. So Canal Saint-Martin is definitely a delightful place to go and hang out.
Awesome.
This next place is a place that I am really, really excited to go to. I don't know if it's this upcoming time I go to Paris or the next time, but the Grand Mosque de Paris. And it is a giant mosque. It is one of the largest mosques in Europe and in France. It's got so much going on. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. The architecture is really beautiful. It has prayer rooms. There's a garden. There's a tea room, so you can get tea there, a restaurant, and a hammam. So if you want to go and relax in a sauna, hammam, you can do that at the Grand Mosque of Paris.
Is this a place that you have been before?
This is a place I have not been before, but I would like to go.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be a really pretty place to go to, especially if you want to get like an afternoon tea or if you want to relax, because hammam culture is pretty big in Paris too. There's lots of great spas you can go to and relax and just kind of unwind. So that's a really cool thing to do. Number 6 is I am definitely going here this next time I go to Paris, and it's La Défense. And most people will be like, oh gosh, La Défense, that's like the business district. You have pretty scenic Paris, and then just outside of Paris is the big old skyscrapers where all the big banks are and all these big companies are based out of. And it doesn't seem that exciting to go visit. But in defense of La Défense, they have a modern sort of Arc de Triomphe called the Grand Arch, and it's dedicated to humanity. It's big. It's actually, if you're standing on the Arc de Triomphe, you can see it, which is really cool. There's a lot of modern art structures and stuff in the area. Lots of great lunch spots because, again, they're catering towards a lot of the people that are working in the area during the day. So lots of great places to grab lunch, food trucks, all that stuff. But the biggest reason I'm so excited to go here in November this month is because it has one of the largest Christmas markets in Paris. Because the area, kind of where the arch is, there's this huge open area where they set up the Christmas market because it has a lot of space for that.
That is surprising to me.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to go for the Christmas market. It'll be open when we go. I'm going to show my parents around La Défense. Maybe we'll go up the big arch so they can check that out. That's an area I'm really excited to see more of, even though a lot of people have like dogged it and they're like, oh, it's like the boring, because it's not the pretty scenic historical looking parts of Paris. It's very like you're in the middle of a city. It's sort of like all the skyscrapers and things like that. But there's a lot of cool architecture, a lot of modern architecture. So yeah, I mean, and again, off the tourist beaten path, a lot of tourists aren't being like, you know where I want to go? La Défense, where all the business, unless if you're a business traveler. You're not really going to La Défense. But for Christmas market season, that's a really cool place to go check out. It's going to be one of the larger markets in Paris to check out. So, yeah, have some mulled wine, some nougat, some cheese, and La Défense.
And
La
talk
Défense.
business.
And talk some business. The business of food.
Mulled wine in the markets.
Yes. Yeah, so number 7 is the place I went to last time, but just the speakeasies around Paris are a lot of fun. I remember that's something I really enjoyed about visiting DC. And it's funny because when my sister and I were exploring Paris, she lives in DC, and there was so many things that were very similar, which that makes sense. L'Enfant, the kind of the city planner for DC, was French. So a lot of the kind of like the roundabouts and things like that, very much like the city itself kind of feels like Paris a little bit, like DC does. So you could kind of see it in some areas in architecture and things like that. But coming back to the speakeasies, there's all kinds of speakeasies around the city. I went to Castor Club last time. Such a fun speakeasy. It's just like a whole vibe. The inside, like, I don't know, it just seems very like 1950s dim lit. I mean, I know it's also like 1920s speakeasy time, but I don't know. Just the feeling was more like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Old-timey, like kind of Western-y a little bit, but not like, Western, if that makes sense.
Some Stetsons in there, Catherine?
No Stetsons in there. But it was dim lit. There was just kind of the decor just seemed sort of Western-y a little bit, but it was really cool. And the drinks were really good. And the people working there were really cool.
Is this a speakeasy or a saloon?
No, it's a speakeasy.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Did they have
maybe it was a couple drinks in going to it, Christopher.
Did they have a mechanical bull?
No, it was a very small speakeasy. Very small. You would not know it unless you knew that that's what it was.
Was this a Longhorn Steakhouse?
It was a Hard Rock Cafe. No, Castor Club. It was great. I really enjoyed it. There's also places like Moonshiner, No Entry, and Lavomatique, which looks like a laundromat in the front, which is pretty sweet.
Okay. That is something right out of Midnight in Paris.
Oh, yeah, because when he turned around, it was a laundromat. Yeah.
Yeah. At what point in your day did you go to these quote-unquote speakeasies?
I went with my friend, and it was like after dinner. We went and got cocktails.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing you being at like a part of like a larger establishment and being like, ooh, I wonder like what's going on, and like having a drink and like going into the bathroom and you're like, oh my gosh, look at this bar.
I don't know. It's not a Western bar, but like the lampshades, I don't know how to explain it. It was just like, it's a very speakeasy feel. I don't know. I guess you just have to go. I'm not doing a great job.
I'm looking forward to it. I would absolutely go to a Western speakeasy, aka saloon.
It's not a saloon.
Okay.
Kind of. I don't know. It's hard to explain because it's also very French at the same time. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
I think it sounds cool, in all honesty. Yeah, I think it sounds cool.
Anyway, number 8, the Paris plage. This happens in the summertime where the city will set up beaches along the Seine. Now, do not go swimming in the Seine. They don't do that. But they'll set up like beach chairs and sand, and there's all these like bars or pop-up bars and like lots of fun things to do along the Seine in the summertime. And it's kind of built for locals and tourists alike, but most tourists going don't really know what that is until, and if you know sort of thing. So yeah, the beaches in Paris are a lot of fun to go and visit. During the summer months, usually July and August timeframe is when those get set up.
I remember seeing those when we were there.
Yeah.
We did not hang out on one.
They were still setting them up, but they did have a lot of like little bars and things starting to pop up. They were really fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked like a neat time.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 9, if you want to see a chateau, but Versailles looks like it might be too crowded, too big, and too intimidating to visit, or you've already been and you want to check out something else, the Chateau de Malmaison is a cool place to visit. It's outside of Paris, but it is most famously known as Josephine Bonaparte's home. So Napoleon Bonaparte's wife. He had gifted, that was her home. Now it's a museum.
Is it a tiny home?
No, it's a chateau. Like it's smaller than Versailles, obviously, but it's a big place.
Do you get it?
Oh my gosh,
Napoleon was a tiny dude.
No, he wasn't. He was average height for his time. He was historically like that was like an average height for that time.
What was his height?
I think it was like my height, like 5'4", 5'5" or something.
You're not over 4'10".
Oh my goodness gracious. But anyway, it is now a museum and there's a lot less crowds than Versailles, and it's just a kind of a neat hidden gem that I think most people don't realize that you can go visit that as a chateau in addition to Versailles, aside from Versailles, etc. Because most people think, oh, I want to go see kind of a castle, and they go to Versailles, which is amazing, and I've been, but people know about Versailles.
Sure.
Not a lot of people know about Chateau de Malmaison. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Number 10. This is a place for sure on my Paris bucket list. Maybe I'll convince my parents to go. Also featured in Midnight in Paris. I think one of the coolest looking museums.
I know what you're talking about.
Musée des Arts Forains. So the Museum of Fairground Arts.
This looks so cool.
Oh my gosh, it looks amazing. It is just turn of the century vintage rides from fairs, games, decor. It's so cool. They host events there, but it's also a museum you can visit.
Are the rides operational?
I don't think so.
Why didn't you and your sister go?
Well, we only had like a couple days and she'd never been to Paris. So we were kind of hitting up as much as we could in a couple of days.
Okay.
For her first time.
Got it.
Versus like my parents have already been to Paris. So maybe I can be like, hey, do you guys want to go in between Christmas markets, go to this cool museum of fairground arts? They're going to be like, sure, I don't know.
Right after that speakeasy Western.
We'll see. Maybe I can get them.
I bet you could, yeah.
I can get my parents over to speakeasy. No, we'll mostly spend the evenings at Christmas markets, I feel like. Because that's like the whole point of the trip.
Sure.
And they're magical, and my mother loves Christmas. So I'm really excited to show her the Christmas markets in Europe because they are just pure magic. But yeah, so the Museum of Fairground Arts is really, really, really cool. Another cool museum that you have been to is Musée Rodin. It just feels like being in a mansion in the middle of Paris, but then there's this huge garden that's sort of blocked off from Paris, so it feels very private. And there's these beautiful sculptures everywhere by Auguste Rodin, or Rodin.
Yeah, it feels less congested than a lot of the museums.
Yeah, I mean, when we went in the middle of July in 2019, there was like a handful of other people in the whole museum.
Yeah.
Compared to like, we didn't even go near the Louvre or like d'Orsay or anything like that.
The problem is some of the clientele, sometimes the pedantic gentlemen.
Oh, from Midnight in Paris.
Yes.
No, yeah, again, featured in Midnight in Paris, but it also features the Thinker statue. I'm sure you guys will recognize that from art history. And the interior has tons of cool sculptures. The exterior has lots of cool sculptures. There's a beautiful pond with ducks and a fountain and
beautiful gardens.
Beautiful gardens. We had the hydrangeas were blooming when we were there. I had a whole video of him just taking a huge sniff out of one, and yeah, it was a whole thing. But it was a beautiful, beautiful romantic garden and museum in Paris that I really, really enjoyed visiting.
I agree, and it is not nearly as crowded as a lot of the other museums.
Yeah. And it wasn't crowded at all when we went.
Right.
It was completely empty. It was fantastic. Number 12 is the Grand Rue Cinema, or Grand Rex Cinema. Sorry. Europe's largest movie theater, largest cinema, has 2,800 seats. It plays both French and Hollywood films, like blockbuster movies.
Wow.
But French cinema is actually very, very big. And I think it's really neat because Netflix is really kind of showcasing a lot of international stuff. Like, there's really great shows that I've gotten into that are French.
Arsène Lupin.
Yeah, Lupin. is fantastic. There's lots of great French movies, but they just have a great cinema. And if you're really into going to the movies, the Grand Rex Cinema is a fantastic place to go. They also have an escape room too.
In the movie theater?
Not like in the middle of a like theater room, but like, yes, they do have an escape room, which is pretty cool to check out. Yeah. Number 13, the Musée de la Vie Romantique, the Museum of the Romantic Life. It's next to Montmartre, and it was the former home of Dutch artist Ari Scheffer, and it is now an art museum that has a lot of art featured from like him and like a lot of his like friends that had stayed there and things like that. But I think, and it's a cool museum and not a lot of people know about it. So it's really fun to visit. But I think the coolest part is there's a tea room there in the garden, and it's just such a cute little tea room and garden area. So if you go, like, definitely go check out the tea room. It's very, very beautiful. And again, not a lot of people know about these smaller museums that are sort of tucked away versus, you know, the big, huge museums that everybody goes to in Paris. Yeah. Number 14. You've been here. The Église de Saint-Germain-des-Prés, which is the church that we've been to in Saint-Germain. It's right across the street from Les Domagos. We were just having breakfast at Les Domagos, and we just saw this beautiful church across the street, and we were like, you know what? Let's see if we can take a peek inside. And it is open during the day for people to poke in. It's my favorite church in Paris. I mean, other than, you know, you've got the Notre Dame, which has been closed down, I think, since April of 2019. It is reopening. I believe they're trying to reopen it before the Paris Olympics in 2024. I think that's their goal. But in the meantime, a lot of people go to Sainte-Chapelle, which again, it's beautiful. It's known for its like crazy, beautiful stained glass. But I really enjoy the Saint-Germain-des-Prés Abbey because there's hardly anybody there. Every time I go, there's like maybe a handful of people. The stained glass is beautiful. There's paint just on the walls, like frescoes. It has a starry ceiling, and it's just a dreamy little like church to go to. It has a little garden outside. It's a very beautiful place to visit. And if you want to go to like a very beautiful abbey, cathedral sort of thing, and you don't want to fight the crowds to get there, it's a great place to visit. And it's free, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very pretty church.
Yeah, it's very pretty inside and out. And then number 15, my last one, and it might be one of my favorites. It was so cool the last time I went. It is the Marché aux Puces du Paris Saint-Laurent. So it's otherwise known as the Paris Flea Market.
Your French is incredible. It really is. You have great pronunciation.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
If there's someone who like speaks French fluently who's listening there would be like, oh. I get so self-conscious about it. I honestly feel like I'm better speaking French when I'm in France.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like you say that you're better speaking Spanish in like Spanish-speaking countries because you're around people. Like you get used to hearing how they say things and you just start mimicking that.
Yeah. But no, I was being serious. That was wonderful pronunciation.
You. Well, great, because in like 3 weeks I'll be back. So
there you go.
I got to speak for my parents because they don't know much French. So we'll see how it works. But the Paris Flea Market, it is a little bit north of the city. It is literally like going into a giant open air museum. It is so freaking cool. I loved it. If you love vintage stuff, this is the place to go. There's just so much of it. There's like alleys and streets of all of the stuff. There are vintage like furniture, dishware, records, postcards, like just anything and everything you can think of. There's all sorts of vintage stuff for it. I mean, we saw artwork. I mean, some of it's pretty pricey. So, you know, if you have an endless budget, that's a great place to shop for furniture. But if you don't, it's a really cool place just to poke around and see really cool things. And sometimes you can find some really neat things to bring home, too, that aren't as expensive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you get anything there?
I just bought some postcards.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm carry-on only, so I didn't really...
Not like the dish towel or anything like that?
No.
That didn't come from there? Okay. Fair enough. That's fine.
I know. I went to a market, though, in Aix-en-Provence one morning, and they had their vintage market, and there was the most beautiful painting ever, and I wanted to get it, and it probably would have fit in my suitcase, but I was still worried it was going to get crushed, and it had a beautiful frame, and I wanted to buy it, but I was really sad, because I was like, I don't think I can fit it and take it home. I was bummed by it. But they have stuff like that at the Paris flea market. So if you plan to go, maybe pack an extra suitcase to bring stuff home.
There you go.
But yeah, the Paris flea market is absolutely incredible. So many really cool places to go visit in Paris. Obviously, you've got the very popular stuff, but these are some of my favorite things. A couple of them I would still really like to visit, like La Défense and stuff like that to go check out. But they're really cool, unique places, and I really hope you enjoy them, whether they're markets, cinema, museums, areas of Paris. These are some of the 15 best. And again, I have a whole blog post on France Voyager all about I think it's 43 hidden gems of Paris that I love that you guys can go check out on that blog. I will link it in the description for this page. But yeah, any questions or anything?
I don't think so. I'm ready to go back.
You're ready to go back to Paris? I'm excited to go back here in a few weeks, hopefully. So yeah, that is it for today's podcast. If you guys have any questions, you can let us know. You can reach us on Twitter at WWHoneymoon, Instagram at Worldwide Honeymoon, or email kat@worldwidehoneymoon.com. But thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to rate and review our podcast. It takes less than a few minutes and really helps other people find us. Also, if you're enjoying this awesome free information on both the blog and podcast, when you're booking your next trip, head over to worldwidehoneymoon.com/resources and use the links provided. We earn a small commission at no cost to you when you book through these links, and these are all brands and companies we know, love, and use, like Skyscanner for finding the best flight prices, World Nomads for the best travel insurance, TripAdvisor for hotel bookings and reviews, and even Amazon for all of your travel purchases.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Wherever you are, wherever you go, remember to make every day a worldwide honeymoon.